You said, like, I don't really care. I think this was you, unless I saw a YouTube video of some guy or I dreamt it. But I feel like you said something about like you don't even care about like being famous anymore.
Oh yeah.
And that's I feel like I've gotten to the same place where it's like the meaning that it's almost like an immature way of looking at success is that what is being famous really? Being famous is I want other people to approve of me.
Yeah.
I want to do something so that other people think
like
I'm cool.
recognition.
Yes.
And not necessarily, and as a younger person, you correlate that to be, okay, fame and recognition are the same thing. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, oh no, I just want people to tell me I'm doing a good job. And like, I don't care if it's 20 or 2000. Mm-hmm. Like,
and I think that like, going back to that thing, it's I have to really come to terms with like, what do I want out of life? Like, why did I want to be successful? Why do I want to be famous? Why do I want to live in LA? Right? And it's just funny because since so many people want the same thing, and that's like the thing to do now, right? Is like movies or music. You can't help but also want those same things too, Yeah. And I still want those things, but it has to be deeper than that. It has to be like to manifest, like I have to see the steps. I can't just be like, I want this. Because if I do get there, like how Alex was saying, or Marissa or Dan, like you should just do reality, or you should do da. But what, like for what? For money? Like my life feels deeper than just that. I can't just be sitting there happy with a bunch of money, just like there's just, it doesn't feel like there's any purpose in it, other than just entertainment. And that would just give me so much anxiety, like to have to like not only just have this sort of lifestyle, but my life is now
under a microscope.
It's now the career. There's no divide. There's no a moment for me to have a sense of like privacy. Right?
Yeah. And again, it's reality. So they're going to be like, all right, well, here's your storyline.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we need you to do. You're like, oh, well, this isn't me. Like, okay, well, now it's you forever because we're recording it and that's how people are going to think of you.
Yeah. And the next thing you know, you're fucking 35 years old doing the Jersey Shore reboot, partying, going on spring break with 3 kids. It's like, what the fuck am I watching here? It's like you become stuck in that, which is why, like, I think we were all, what's interesting is that we were all kind of moving on instinct that led us to the places we are now, but I think we didn't understand it at the time, which is as you get older and as you become more embedded in what you're doing, you actually start to see what the fuck it is you're actually doing. Yeah. It's the same, I always use the example for the podcast, like, when we started, I didn't really know what it was supposed to be. And it wasn't until we started doing it that it was like, oh, this is what it is. You know, it's the same thing with life. It's like you go through and it's like, I had those same thoughts when I was 19. I look back and I'm like, I had the musical talent. I had the all the things that you would think would make something, but at the end of the day, I wasn't willing to do that kind of soul crushing, compromising shit to go out on The Voice and become, this guy, or you're going to be the guy who wears a fedora and the sweater. And you remember, like, I would try to do that stuff, right. Try to, like, I was a fucking Jason Mraz type guy for like a fucking year until people were like, wait, why is this guy in a sweater vest being such a fucking ridiculous lunatic at this frat party? And it's like, no, because that's not him. That's not who that guy is. Right. But, it's like you go through and as you get older, you start to realize, oh, okay. And then you start to realize that any of the shit that you were concerned about, like all that stuff we used to do, which I still find myself doing, trying to go on Wikipedia and see, when did this guy make it? And it's like, you're comparing yourself to this guy. Why? You know, because he happens to have the same career as you, that means, oh,
or
well.
It's like the career you want.
Yeah. Well, he made it when he was 26.
Right.
Or he made it when he was 29. So, I mean, I have one more year to fucking do something. It's like that. You're a completely different person, taking a completely different path,
Yeah, I mean, again, it's to focus for me, like doing acting class and stuff like that. It really put a different perspective in my brain as far as like, what work do I actually need to do, and like the work that I want to do, not like I feel like I have to do. You know what I mean? Of course, like I'm in an industry where at the moment I'm not going to be able to make the choices that I want. I just have to kind of take whatever's given to me. But at the same time, trying to take it step by step as opposed to just trying to like just wanting the thing that everybody else wants just because everybody else wants it, Because when I really think about that, like, okay, what if I had a really nice house? What if I really had, you know, a cool yard and a nice car, and I get to travel, like fly back and forth. Like, I mean, I'm sure that shit will get boring real quick, you know? But if I don't have a like an actual reason for that, then just like, I want to be an actor, then I'm just going to fall in the same category as all the other ones that have either fallen off or have killed themselves, you know? Like, because I understand if I fall into that hole of just in the beginning not gaining control of myself, and I gain all that, if I were to gain success, then I'm definitely going to be stuck in a moment where I have all this success with no control of who I am, and people telling me who I am and what I should be doing, and you know, scheduling my life out. Like, you got to be here about this time and do this thing. You know, it's like, that's not a life that I want. But I know it's going to be something to a degree of that for sure. But
have you figured out exactly, like, in terms of like acting? Because I always think it's like, you know, especially with you, I know you did like theater in high school and
like my senior year,
yeah. But like you kind of dove real headlong into this idea of becoming an actor in the same way that like I dove headlong into becoming a musician, Eric dove headlong into becoming a comedian. But it's like, you almost, sometimes I'll step back and be like, what's the real, because that's really what the question comes down to, is why, like we were talking about before, when you're younger, you think it's, you have these ideas of what it might mean to be successful, or how to gauge success or anything like that. But when I whittle it down for me personally, I almost feel like, in a way, when we all kind of decided to take this alternate route or whatever the fuck it is in life, and then it was like, I don't know, it's almost like I was trying to like prove something to myself, or prove something to, like, I remember it stuck with me when we were in LA. I think the first time around, and not when we went out the first time, but like the middle time, the third time I went out over the summer last year. And we were at, I think we were at Eddie's house.
Oh yeah, Eddie.
Yeah. And shouts out Eddie, by the way.
Eddie.
He'll DM me about the podcast every now and then. He's cool.
Oh shit. Let's go.
And we were sitting there, and they were talking about like going to like some restaurant or something, some like fast food place.
Oh, you talking about the time where you're like, why not a gas station?
Yeah, and I was saying like, well, why don't we go there? Like, ooh, a gas station. I was like, well, what the fuck's wrong with a gas? Like, I'm like kind of going back at him, but like in a sarcastic way.
Yeah.
But there's a certain like combativeness to it, and I've always like been that way.
I mean, you did it to me yesterday.
With what?
That Baker Mayfield, dude, he does because he does commercials.
Yeah.
I interpret it as like, all right, you're trying to get under my skin because I'm not doing commercials right now. But,
oh no, I didn't mean it like that. Oh no, I didn't mean it like that.
Oh really? I thought that's what it was. I thought it was like because he's doing more commercials.
No.
Then that's my ego.
Now that you said it, I wish that's how I meant it.
Because I was like, all right, this is just Jimmy being Jimmy. That's okay.
Yeah, I think in terms of the Baker Mayfield thing, I think that I've always had a visceral problem with people thinking something when I can tell that they only think it because everyone else thinks it. Mm-hmm. That they only are doing something because it's what they think is acceptable to do.
Yeah.
And so I've always had this compulsion when I see someone doing that, I become like, and I don't do it in a dickish way, or I don't try to. And as I've gotten older, I feel like I've gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I feel like some people would be like, this guy's a fucking dick. Why is he being so sarcastic and like that? But like, it's because I'm sitting there trying to probe them as like, why do you think that way? Like, why is it so ingrained in your mind that like, if I go to this restaurant, if I text with an iPhone and my texts are blue, that's okay. But if I text with a Droid and my texts are green, that's not okay. And it's like, why do you think that way? Why are you so ingrained with it? Because I think it all goes back to this whole conversation we've been having, which is why we're stuck in the two-party system and why all these other things, why people are so ingrained in it, is because we're programmed to think we're afraid of going against what everyone else is doing, because we're afraid of being wrong, because at least there's a certain security when everyone else goes to college and everyone else gets this type of job to go, well, I did it too. And I at least I can find some type of solace in knowing that my friend who also did it also isn't really happy with his life and not happy with his marriage and not happy with this. But like, I just followed the fold, and there's a security in that, in feeling like, well, I just, versus taking the chance on, same thing with the welfare thing. I can get $900 guaranteed a week. Why would I risk that $900 guaranteed to go out and try to do something better? because there's a chance I might wind up worse. And so many people stay stuck in that mindset. And so even on those little things, like, oh, we can go to this restaurant, but not that restaurant because blah, 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 because of all this bullshit that's going through your mind, it makes me that way, you know? And I think I look at like, I think it's present in all of us in a certain way. But like when we set out for this path or whatever it is we're doing, I think ultimately, at first I was trying to prove something to other people that I didn't need to do what you're doing. And I believe in myself and I can do this. But then I started to realize that I'm actually just trying to prove something to myself. And you don't prove something, and all the things that I thought would prove it to me, like this amount of money or that thing, never wound up mattering. It was always about, I need to find something in this life that makes me feel like I actually, like we were talking about the whole time, had a purpose. And did something and didn't just follow along with it, so that maybe other people would realize that they don't have to do it as well and find happiness in their lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we go back to the beginning, I think that like in high school, coming out of high school, I mean, I knew right away I didn't want to go to college, and I knew partly for you didn't want to either, but there was still a part of you that you did it a little bit. And you know, I don't want to take all the credit, but I do feel like there was a part of me that did push you to be able to get out of that and see something different, even though you were obviously, you had the thought already. You just needed that like little push, and maybe I hurt you or not, I don't know. But we always saw it as like, you know, this is a fucking empire type scheme thing. They're just collecting money. Like, you don't really need college to be successful. And it wasn't until like I got to intern at TBC, the ad agency. THB.
Thousand Hot Bagels.
The one downtown.
When I interned at
TBC at Fells.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interning there. And when I interned there, they offered me a job. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't even go to school for this shit. And that's what drove me to go move to New York. And when I had that opportunity, like, yo, if I didn't have to go to school for this and I could do this, then like, what else could I do?
Yeah.
But there was also the fact that like being a mixed kid, like not really having people like understand me and like what I go through as a mixed person, like that also is what drove me to do what I want to do. And I think now it's just so, I feel like saturated in like this type of like, I struggle more than you, like this always this like one upness to like, oh, well, you're mixed. Well, I'm fucking mixed too. And like, I had it this hard and da 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 da.
Yeah, you had it that hard?
Yeah.
Well, I had it 10 times worse.
Yeah. It's like, and then I could talk about, oh, I'm Baltimore and then the liquor store, you know, and it just keeps, it feels like, yo, why does this shit actually matter? Like what I am saying, am I trying to prove to this person that I'm harder than him or I went through more shit? Like, what does
people
actually,
like a good story though.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, at the end of the day, like, yes, that does matter to me, but like, what does it do for me? Like, what does this energy do for me to constantly think that I have to prove to the next person that like I'm worth it? Like, let me just find it in myself first, and then people can see it, you know? So then I had to pull back from all that stuff because again, it's just feels so saturated now. Like, no matter like who I talk to, it just seems like it's a pissing contest. That it's like, man, this trend. It's so whack now. Like, like this, like nobody cares about this shit anymore. Like, let's move on.
It's just
like,
played out.
Like, fuck it. Let me think of like let me just really get to just knowing me, you know, and that's where I find more. It's just easier on me now, you know, just to like not have to feel like I have to hold myself in certain positions towards certain people. To try to get what I want. Like, let me just not even really think about it. Let me just be me. And it wasn't like, again, until acting class that I really then got to understand that. Like, just being outside of myself. Yeah. And putting more of my focus on the other person than my actual self, you know, like really listening to what other people are saying instead of thinking about what I want to say to the other person. Stop trying to be strategic. Because I think also in our generation, we're just too strategic as people. Like, you think about the amount of seconds that it has to go in between text so that you can seem like cool, or you know, whether it be relationships, like how many people really find insecurity in not being able to trust the other person because we're all so strategic in like what we want out of life, and does this person bring this to me? And you know, it's all just such a mess that it's like not worth just contributing into.
I give you joked about it, but I do give you like most of the credit in terms of like what kind of made me decide to stop going to school. And I think it was something that I knew all along.
Yeah.
But I blame a lot of it. And I think there was also an element which is like the one difference I think in the way I came up was my parents, particularly my father, was very adamant about me doing music. Like, it wasn't like that typical like musician story where the kid's in the bedroom playing guitar and the parents are like, hey, keep it down up there. It was like, no, like it was the complete opposite. It was complete opposite. Yeah. And so there was a certain element of me that like when I was coming out of high school, I had like a resistance to going along with that, you know? And plus I was still in my mind.
Because he was like supportive of it. You're like, well, since you want me to do it, I don't want to do it.
Exactly. I had this idea of like, oh, well, my parents just look at me as like musician or whatever, and like I want to prove that I could do something else, which is I think why I invested so hard in wrestling, because I wanted to prove that I could do something where it wasn't just like innate. It didn't, you know, I don't remember ever really working that hard at music to be a standout musician in school and stuff like that. But with wrestling, I started literally sucking, and then I had to fucking earn everything I got from. Yeah, so fucking.
Sorry.
But I think also it's like it's the school system we came up in, which didn't even encourage things like that. Like I think about that stuff all the time about how, you know, people like us that had talents and had skills, and we're not dumb people, you know, but it didn't really translate in the school environment because the school environment was, you know, constructed for one type of person with one type of path. And there were very few people throughout my time. There were some people that were extremely valuable in my life, but for the most part, the system that I was carried along in was basically just making me feel like all the stuff that made me stand out was like a problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm going along. And it wasn't until I had that first year of college where I almost like, I look at my first year of college as perhaps one of the most educational experiences of my life, in that I understood just how fucking bullshit it was when it came to a person like me. And I wouldn't have come across that realization unless I dove headfirst into it. And when I say dive headfirst, I didn't dive headfirst. I went into it the same way everybody goes into it, just because the next guy's doing it. And so it wasn't until I had that experience that I was like, oh, wait, now I see what the fuck is going on. Now I see that this is essentially 13th grade, except now I'm paying you. And now, you know, it's... Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's why, I mean, I feel like I was always cool with your dad. I was probably one of your first friends that was cool with your dad, just because I felt like...
My first friends, dude.
I was your first friend, dog. No, I mean, he did keep it real.
Yeah, you were never intimidated by Tony.
Yeah, never.
I feel like.
Because it was just like everything he was saying was just like, I knew to a degree it wasn't true. Like, it wasn't like, there was nothing to be scared of about this guy. Like, he was just saying it to like blow smoke. But at the end of the day, like, you know, he's a man who just knows what he wants. He's got, you know, his values and stuff like that. And like, those are things that I respect. And again, if you were to just talk to him instead of being intimidated by him and speak his ways, I feel like, you know, he'll respect you too. And I feel like that's, I know Tony, if he were to hear this, he'd be like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, I fuck with Scott. Like, he's a cool ass dude. Because we just get each other, you know, as much as, you know, he jokes around and says some shit. I know it doesn't mean anything. That maybe some people would look at it as like, oh, what the fuck? You know, he's fucking crazy. But it's like, nah.
Yeah. And we all kind of like the fact that we gravitated to each other as like a core-ish friend group. Like, we obviously had like our bigger friend group, but like us three in particular.
Yeah, there's a sundown reunion.
Yeah, it made it easier because we were all doing it. You know, like most of my friends in high school, like they all took that direction, and then I always felt like I was like, if I started talking in bigger terms, like if I started talking about things that I wanted to do outside of that mold or whatever, that they were all it was always met with this kind of like it was just kind of like it wasn't like they would ever overtly be like that's stupid, but you always felt like they just like they never saw what I was seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They didn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, why I was talking like that or what I was thinking. Or a lot of times people might even think, well, you know, that it's like a fucking like an ego thing. Like why what makes you think that you can fucking do something like that? And I'm always saying, well, some people do it.
Yeah.
Like you listen to the radio, right? That means it's possible that people become successful musicians, you know, and it's like you're so ingrained to think that that could never be you that it never will be you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy coming back here and always knowing that, like, yo, like people that I went to high school with are having kids and they're going to go to the same high school and it's just going to be that same loop, you know, like, even with your parents, Eric, like to have to go to Taos High School, you know. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I knew from the very start that that wasn't for me. Like, I'm just a very curious person and I enjoy the exploring and I enjoy, you know, like seeing my fears and just wanting to take on like a life that is bigger than what I know. Mm-hmm. And so it is a weird place where, like, again, like we're in high school and we're just trying to figure ourselves out by just saying sort of whatever and like trying to roll with different friend groups, but not really being accepted by anybody. And then on top of that, to have like people tell you like, yo, your fucking dream's ridiculous. Like, are you fucking serious? Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you know, and that does take a hit on you, you know, like
for sure.
But at the same time, it's the way that you got to program your brain. Like, you really have to think about like what is being said and then make that choice on your own. Like, for me, I use that as fuel. Like, damn, these people really don't think I can do it. Like, I could sit there and go, yeah, they're probably right. But instead I was like, you know what? Like, how much better would it feel like to like have them think otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I chose. And I'm still like very grateful, like so thankful that I have the brain that I do and like that I do take the chances that I do just based off of that. Like, because again, I don't think that, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's like something that you're born with, that like sort of mentality or not. But it almost feels like, you ever watch that movie like Ants or something? Like just any sort of Disney movie, you can't help but to feel like you're that guy that's like different than everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys feel that too.
Do you feel like in any way, I guess I was going to ask, like, in terms of like, you've been doing a lot of modeling stuff and things like that. And so do you have a more specific idea of what you want to do in terms of like pursuing modeling versus acting? Or are you kind of just embracing all of it as like just whatever works? Or what like, if you could have your ideal career, would you be in like big movies and things like that, or directing your movies? Like, what are you thinking?
I guess yeah, I mean, I guess ideally, yeah, I like the reason why I did modeling was to open some doors to get into film and stuff like that. Because again, like in the beginning, I was unsure about acting schools and stuff. Like, what does that really mean? Does that mean that I'm just going to be a teacher, you know?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to fall into that category, or am I going to just be so into the school that I'm just going to have so much knowledge on it that I myself now am like a robot as opposed to like being natural with things?
Yeah.
That I took the modeling route, did the Asia thing, a little bit in New York, came to LA, and I still do it there a little bit. But again, it's not really, it just all feels like it's more for a flex. It's not like how many guys, you know, like do modeling and make like millions, you know, or even like thousands. It's not until you actually do like commercial stuff. So by that point, like, I feel like modeling is more editorial, and it's just more for like, I guess like an Instagram, or like just to say like, yo, I'm on this billboard, or yo, I do this, you know. But then the commercials where you make the money and where you can use that to invest or whatnot. So like, I'm still down to do like commercials. Like, I still have an agent for all that stuff. But the bigger dream again is, it still is acting, and it still is like, I enjoy telling stories. So if I can find a way through acting to eventually get me into a place to like work with people to direct or something, like that would be awesome. But at the same time, you know, like, these are still things that I definitely want for myself, but as I've, been just, I guess, constantly with myself through the pandemic, I started trying to figure out like what else could I do, like to be able to like connect things, So like again with acting, it's kind of hard to see your progression unless you're like in movies, like you can practice and work with yourself, but it's not until you actually like, can audition for things and get those things and then see like, okay, like I'm actually worth something. People actually see me as like a talent that they want to put in their movies. And so I feel like that takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
And so instead, like, maybe some people will start making their own short films and all. And so for me, I feel like my brain just moves constantly so fast that I it's hard for me to be consistent sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love clothes. Like I like fashion. And so I was like, okay, like, you know what? Like if it's any time, it's like, it's got to be now. Like, fuck it. Let me just try to learn this stuff. Let me buy a sewing machine. Like, I always said I wanted to do it. Like, if it's any time, it's now.
The concept behind what you're saying is really what's sticking with me. And I feel like it's that you're, in one form or another, you're kind of taking the reins of your own path, You might be doing that through fashion or whatever. But one of the things I remember thinking, obviously, I'm speaking from an outside perspective, and I only get a chance to really talk to you these days very infrequently, So it's, I'm sure you have your ideas of like what I'm doing, and I have my ideas of what you're doing. And I was always wondering if like when you go down the route of like going with a modeling agency and then you're going to these casting auditions and things like that, and it's obviously something that you need to do, but also in that same vein, you're kind of waiting. I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but from my outside perspective, because I saw me doing kind of similar stuff in regards to what I'm doing, that there's still this aspect of like waiting for someone else
to give you that opportunity.
And then as you get older, you start to realize that, you got to put yourself on, and you kind of have to navigate those things. It's like with me in the playing at bars with music, it's like that even that path within music is looked at a certain way, because most of the time what happens is guys will start making a decent living. Like you can actually make a decent living doing that, just playing at bars, playing 5-6 gigs a week, getting higher and higher paying gigs, to the point where now you just show up and you play guitar, play songs that people know and love, and just like you get that, you can make your money that way. And it's very easy to fall in that trap. And it's like, before that, when we were working at restaurants and stuff like that, there was always this kind of idea that I never really like articulated in my mind, or never really saw it for what it was. But I'm sitting there working at Cheesecake Factory at the Melting Pot, and just kind of like making music and just kind of hoping that like something I did would like hit big.
Yeah, or like Usher would find you.
Yes, exactly.
Like Justin
exactly.
Bieber.
And so you're just kind of going along, and in your mind, you're still giving the power to someone else. You're still waiting for someone else to be like, hey, you deserve this, whatever, let me take you under my wing.
Right.
And then obviously you understand that nobody's going to take you under their wing unless you can do something for them.
Right.
And for a person who's not willing to compromise, that situation is never going to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, how can I figure out a way to take this thing that can make me money playing at bars and navigate that in a way so that it works towards what I'm ultimately trying to do? And the hardest part about that is always making sure that you never lose sight, like keeping your eyes on the prize, basically. Making sure you never lose sight of what you're ultimately trying to do. And it's like, okay, so I'm sitting here working 6-hour shifts at the restaurant 6 days a week, and I'm spending that time doing something that might make me on some nights as much money as I could be making at bars, but I have this like aversion to playing at bars, because I'm thinking that like, oh, well, if I become that guy, then that's just going to be all I'll ever be, versus saying like, hold up, what if I instead of wasting 36 hours, 40 hours a week at this restaurant, which is doing absolutely nothing for me, it's not making me better, it's not making me any more in tune with what it's like to be in front of people, and instead transfer that over to something that I can actually be improving myself, getting better, becoming a better musician, incorporate my songs and build a brand around that. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're taking the reins and you're doing things and taking a certain path, but you're using it to your own advantage, you know?
Right.
And so in terms of like with the modeling and the stuff, it's like, it's one thing to be making money doing modeling and going to these casting auditions, but also at the same time maintaining this idea that it's like, in the meantime, you know, I'm going to keep on building a brand for myself, because even more so than ever, you know, I've talked about this a billion times, but like the difference between now and 20 years ago was, back in those days before social media and things like that, you needed, there was much less competition, and so in terms of music, somebody could see somebody, oh, that's a good looking guy, he can kind of sing, whatever, we'll take him under our wing, we'll put $1 million behind his first record, we'll do the promo, we'll do the advertising, we'll do blah 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 blah, and we'll push him. And because we're only competing with 6 other major record companies for radio time, you know, there's a very high chance of return on investment with this. Now these places aren't as willing to do that, because you could invest $1 million, $10 million in this new act that you brought in, and then he could be outshined by some dude who has 4 million TikTok followers that drops a fucking song in his basement. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's so much more competition now that these companies aren't even really willing to take the chance on you unless you've already shown that you're able to establish a brand and have a market appeal without them. Right. It's like now record deals are like, hey, you have the #1 trending song on SoundCloud, or like you have this many followers on Spotify, like you're obviously doing shit. Yeah. We're willing to work with you so that your next album can be even bigger. Mm-hmm. But they're not just going to find some kid, you know. Yeah. So it's like, it's the same thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I think that's where media, you know, certain companies, they do have to take a certain stand on themselves, because again, like you were saying, like that is very true. But then again, is it about making money, or is it about trying to tell an actual story and like, you know, like creating something that's worth something than just that, the personality of the person. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, you know, companies like A24, you know, I know that they're not gonna like be like, all right, these people on TikTok, they got this many people like following them, let's put them on, create a movie for them. You know, I'm very like, I'm still in that mindset, like hopeful that isn't the case. You know, it's not because I don't want to work hard at trying to create a platform for myself, but I just don't believe in that idea. You know, I'm still old fashioned. Maybe that's just me. You know,
there's certainly companies that do that.
Yeah, but no, I think at the same time, like what you said is true. Like it's majority of it. You know.
Yeah.
Which
and even with those companies that aren't like that, they're still looking for like a company like A24.
They're looking for like a track record of like, okay, you can like bring in results. All right, great. Now let's double our money.
Yeah.
Or even with that, going beyond that, it's like a company like A24. I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are.
That's okay.
But you know, based off of what you're saying, the kind of company who's actually has a vision and a brand beyond just what's going to make us the most money.
Yeah.
Even their motive for partnering up with somebody is not necessarily about making the most money, but they would actually have to believe in you as a person and a brand.
Yeah.
And so even in that aspect, you still need to establish yourself as who you are. And so they might not, it's like, you know, it's like there might be a record company that would be willing to work with somebody that didn't have, like, wasn't super followed or anything like that.
Right.
But, you know, if all you're doing is playing fucking Semi-Charmed Life, it's like, well, I still need to see what you are. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just doing random commercials or something like that, at a certain point, you got to, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, if I think about music, I don't know if you know guys like Brockhampton or like Dominic Fike, but like, yeah, I listen to a lot of those artists, and I've done like, I guess, a little bit of background, like hearing people talk about them, and it's like, it's almost like they're like the hope in a way, you know, like it's like they're normalizing their lives and like the art. It's not about like the flexing and stuff like that. Like, of course, everyone wants to do that, but at the same time, it's, you know, you hear about these guys and it's like they didn't have a big following. They just had talent. They just really had passion to like what they were doing and regardless of like the amount of followers or whatever, like record labels were willing to invest in them because they were like, holy shit, like we know you're gonna blow up, like we know you got something to offer, not just face value, but you know, production or collaborations and solo stuff. So yeah, again, it's like I love that shit because then it feels meaningful. It doesn't feel like it's just this fast food type, you know, industry. But again, it's so hard to like not see past that when it's like on your Instagram, it's every fucking post is an advertisement to something. If it's not an advertisement from that company, it's an advertisement from that person that you're following. I mean, for sure, I've posted things where I'm like doing stuff with other people and it's just because the picture's cool, you know, and I'm like proud that maybe I did work with that person, but it sucks because it then becomes an advertisement for that thing too, you know? So it's like, how do you get away from that kind of stuff? Like, how do you stop that cycle from like constantly going further? I feel like it's really inevitable. Like you can't, it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that before we all took a piss break, that I was watching some comedy sketch and it was actually a Tim Dillon comedy sketch. I've been really liking Tim Dillon. They've been watching
Tim Dillon's great.
He's fucking awesome. I love him. He's actually might be one of my favorite top podcasts right now. He's very fastly growing on me. And he did some like comedy sketch of like a TikTok influencer giving out shit to the homeless for clout and stuff.
Oh shit.
And at the end he goes, remember bro, he's like doing an impression. He's like, content is king, but marketing is queen, which he said Gary Vaynerchuk said. I guess that sounds like something Gary Vee would say.
For sure.
But at the same time, I was like, I know this is a joke, but also that's pretty dope saying because it's true. Like, and so it's almost kind of annoying for someone like you or me or Eric, where it's like, I guess, you know, and a lot of people where there is an element of you have to figure out how to promote yourself, you know, and it's like, we're not the type of people that want to promote ourselves, you know, it's like, you know, there's certain guys when you go to, remember that guy who used to work with you at Lacoste and he was like a rapper?
Oh, yeah, I think his name's Chris Walker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Because I was about to tell.
Let's air him out, dude.
Yeah, let's air him out. And he, which I think is hilarious because he was 24 at the time, and I remember you and me being like, "Yo, he's fucking done, dude. He's done. There's nothing. It's over. It's over, dude. You're 24, bro. You got nothing." It's like now we're sitting here, you know, 4 years older than he was at the time. Still, we're done. But I remember, you know, no shade against him. I wasn't gonna say his name, but Scott did. So
damn, sorry.
But what I was getting at is that I remember like he was kind of like, yo, I'm a rapper, and like we were like, yo, can we hear something? He's like, yo, you know, normally I'll never forget. He said he's like, normally, you know, you got to pay me for these bars, but like he gives me like a fucking 16 or something like that. And I'm just thinking like, come on, dude, like who the fuck says that first of all? And it's like I remember thinking about that. It's like we've never been those type of people, you know. I feel like we'll have something going on. Like I'll have a show at a bar and be like, yo, come out. And I know that if you come out, you're going to have a good time. But I'm not going to be the guy who's like, yo, we're the fucking best band in Baltimore, bro. Come out and check us out at fucking High Tops.
I mean, honestly, I feel like it's like the main reason we don't have like a Patreon set up for this podcast yet is because we're like, it's like a GoFundMe almost.
Exactly. It is. It's hard to step outside of that. And I feel like, you know, Matt and Sig, they've been doing it for what, 1/25 of the time we've been doing it, and they set up a Patreon. They get a couple patrons, you know, and it's like, I think they make like, I don't know, $50 a month, but who cares? You know, it's more money than we make. Yeah. But like, it's always been very difficult to kind of understand that if you're going to be your own brand and your own manager and your own promoter and your own all this stuff, that you do have to apply those things because all those are important. Like, you know, the greatest thing in the world, but if you're not getting it out to people, then, you know, you're just shouting into the void. And so it's like, there are elements when you post on Instagram, and it's like, I did the same thing with that like news segment, you know, and it's all, it's all for the flex because it's like, dude, nobody watches Midday Maryland. No offense to Midday Maryland, you know, but like, you know, nobody's watching the local news for like the next big fucking thing, you know? But it's like, it still looked cool when I could screenshot that video and post it to Instagram so that people look at it and go, oh shit, he's really doing something. Or even with the Manscaped thing, it's like, dude, we didn't get a paid promotion from Manscaped. They literally said like, yo, if you get a couple, I think it was like 4 sales. And we didn't even beat that.
I think it was more than that. I think we got 4 sales.
Oh, we got 4. Well, whatever we got wasn't
within like
enough.
the first like 2 weeks of having it or something.
Yeah. And like, so we didn't get paid from that, but still.
I mean, they sent us like a care package each,
which
of
was
like
dope.
hundreds of dollars worth of shit.
Yeah, we got trimmers, which still got to get a charger for that. Ball wipes, all kinds of cool stuff. But like
ball wipes,
they're sick. They're sick.
They're sick.
That's the one thing I want.
It's just like a little moist towelette like square that you'd open up, and it'd be like this nice scented antimicrobial wipe that you just like, squeegee off your nuts and stuff.
Gets rid of all them microbes on your balls. You don't want any
Just like
microbes
get
on
rid of
there.
the gooch smell,
the gooch smell. Yeah,
the end of day gooch smell.
but like we took promo photos for that. We took promo photos for that, and it was like people saw that and were like, "Yo, you're really like." People really thought that meant something, you know, and it did mean something.
Yeah.
But like those are things that like,
was a thing too, where they reached out to us without it like even hitting them up.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest.
That is the coolest thing, that we were somehow on their radar, which is awesome. And I know there's people paid to be on the lookout for that and scouring Instagram for stuff. And so whatever the hell we did made them see us as someone who was worth being approached.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome. But it's kind of like, I think about like down the line when we get like actual sponsorships and stuff like that. Like I don't want to just take anybody who gives us money.
Right.
You know, I want to make sure that like that's why we do the joke with like, oh, we're brought to you by Bang Energy or like Monster Energy or something, like, because it's stuff that we're actually using, it's stuff that we actually like, and it would be cool to have things that we actually, products that we actually stand behind.
Right.
To
we
promote
tried
those.
for High Life for so long.
We tried
for like 2 years straight.
and by try we never reached out to them.
Never reached out. We just said it every time.
We just continue to buy
we
their
spoke it
products.
into the universe.
I think you got to be at least 25 or 26 too to be able to have that. Because like for me, I can't do any alcohol or cigarette advertising.
Because you're not 25 yet?
Until after. Yeah. Well, now I can. But I always remember like, yo, I'm 21.
Well,
like,
I
why
tell
can't
people
do
I'm
that
23.
shit?
But like that's like there's certain
Is that true?
No, no.
Okay.
you should.
Guys,
Dude,
I'm
why the fuck
18.
not?
Don't believe them.
I always looked at it as like, you know, like as long as we can stay looking young and stuff, like why the hell I gotta tell you I'm 28? It's none of your fucking business, dude. Are you looking at my ID?
Yeah.
All
Well,
you
that's
got to know is this podcast called Live from the Studio.
Well, that's actually something my acting teacher told us was you never say your age, because the minute you tell the casting director your age, that's where it's done. Then they start to label you as far as like what you can and can't do.
So what do you write on the thing? When
You don't
they
write
ask?
anything.
TBD.
It's literally a game. Like in I guess these like setups, it's like a game with the other person. It's the way that she says it is like, imagine that you're going on a date with somebody, you know? So when they ask you like, how old are you? Like
Lie.
it's almost like lying. Like you would have to come up with like a response back that's witty, you know?
Yeah.
To like
You're
avoid
acting,
that
dude.
question, you know?
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's not something that I think about because it's like, I'm just an honest dude. I'm not trying to get away with anything. I'm just trying to tell it how it is, you know?
Yeah.
So the way that, you know, she says it like that, it's like, damn. Now I understand why the fuck Hollywood is the way it is, you know? You got a lot of fucking sneaky ass people.
Well, it's
getting away with some shit.
unfortunate that that's something that you have to do, and it's not in our nature to do that.
Yeah.
But it's like it's different. It's like, are you doing it to get over on? Are you doing it to do something for yourself, or are you just happen to be in an industry that is so shallow that that's what they're concerned with, and so the only way that you can compete in that industry is by playing that game. You know, and that's the difference. Which is like you kind of have to play the game a little bit,
Right.
but you have to just play it in your way. That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not just gonna read off an ad read for any fucking thing who gives us an ad.
Right.
But I also understand that if you want to make money doing the podcast or you want to make money doing anything, it's like that's part of it, you know? And so it's kind of like, yeah, you make these posts on Instagram where like you're aware that it is a promotion in a way, and oh, I'm taking this picture with this person and I'm wearing this thing, and it all is like an advertisement. But it's like, as long as it's you, I don't see anything wrong. As long as it's something that you truly believe in, I don't see anything wrong with it, because that's just, I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, if you want to make it a living, you got to make it a living.
Yeah. That's fucking crazy how Instagram is really so many people's lives.
ruining
No,
really.
it really
Really?
is a lot of
Yeah,
people's
yeah.
lives.
Just like being sponsored by like tummy tea or like
Not even that, but just how much time we consume on it. Like honestly,
yeah.
like how much, like you guys spend a lot, probably the most on that app, right? Would you say?
Out of any other apps,
yeah, out of
probably,
like
yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, probably on Instagram the most.
Yeah,
Easily, yeah.
It's crazy. It's like it's weird. And then sometimes when it's like other things like TikTok come around, you're like, what the fuck? Like Instagram's
I never
it.
really got into TikTok.
Me
yeah.
neither.
Me neither. I got one for the podcast, but I spend no time on it. And I don't want to spend time on it because it seems like a waste of fucking time to me to just be scrolling through. Like, if a TikTok's funny enough of my friends are on TikTok that they'll fucking send it to me.
Yeah.
Or it'll
You
just
know?
end up on a site, like it'll end up on Instagram on like
Yeah.
a meme page if it's like a funny thing that I should have seen. You know,
But that's a perfect example. It's like, I didn't even want to get an Instagram for the longest time because I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying pissing people off on Facebook enough. And I already have my friends and people and stuff on Facebook where like I kind of can, like, I have a platform on Facebook that people are actually seeing what I'm saying. I don't feel like fucking starting up an Instagram from scratch and looking like a fucking psycho weirdo with 13 followers at 27 years old on Instagram. It's just like, why am I going to start that now? Especially since the whole medium didn't really make sense to me in how it fit into my life. It's like, I'm not a photogenic person.
Yeah.
I don't really take pictures of myself like that. That whole thing just doesn't even, it's not even seem like me.
Right.
But then, you know, that actually kind of coincided with that Maryland Midday thing where she was like, what's your Instagram handle so I can give it to the news station? I was like, I don't have a band. I don't have like a music Instagram. I just kind of use the podcast Instagram as my personal page. And that's just for like, I just follow a bunch of people and just look at it. But like, she was like, dude, you need an Instagram. Like, that's where everybody's at. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll do it. And it was the same thing with TikTok. It's like, we started TikTok last month and it was only because that's where everybody's at. And it's like that again, that's kind of like that weird tightrope walk of you gotta play the game.
Yeah.
You gotta play the game a little bit. It's like, am I gonna become obsessed with TikTok? No. But am I gonna like ignore the fact that that's where everybody's on?
Right.
And so I'm gonna be doing this thing and just ignore an entire segment of society that's never gonna see it because they're on some app that I'm just like, oh well, that's for fucking, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't consider it a compromise necessarily.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're just putting your ticket in, and then I mean, like, it's a lot of things are just random like that, like things just blowing up, especially on social media now, where like something can just like go for no reason. And like, unless you have your fucking ticket in there, how else are you gonna get the fucking winning number?
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
It's weird as shit.
Yeah. It's pretty annoying.